So last week I posted 3 videos of the Battle of Quatre Bras that was fought by a couple of members of our gaming group back at the beginning of October. And it was played using just the basic armies, the starter armies that come in a LPA Complete Napoleonic System setup. I wanted to do that because it illustrated how the game was played using what I call the double scale. When you buy a starter army or a complete game of LPA Complete System, what you're getting is a mix of troop types representing the period, but it's really designed to allow you to fight one-off battles, points-based battles that will get you familiar with the rules, let you experience the different types of troops that fought on the battlefield. It doesn't represent a specific battle or even really a period, because although the Waterloo campaign is very popular, since it is one of the most famous battles of Napoleonic history, in history period for that matter, within the English-speaking world, of course, when you buy a Napoleonic or a Waterloo starter army as part of your complete Napoleonic system, you're not getting sufficient troop types in the standard game to play any of the battles. Well, there were actually only 2 battles that the British fought in during the Waterloo campaign, and that would be Quatre Bras and, of course, Waterloo. Waterloo is far outside the scope of what you can do with a starter set, because it is a battle in where about 150,000 men were involved, more than that once you get all of the Prussians involved, so you can't do that with a starter set. But using the double system you can, or the double scale system, you can fight the Battle of Quatre Bras, and that's what I showed you in the 3 videos demonstrating the battle. Now I'm going to take some close-up shots so you can see what comes in the starter set. Not every starter army is going to be exactly the same. I think the last British Waterloo army I did 2 brigades of Dutch-Belgian infantry, 1 line and 1 conscript, but I didn't include Dutch-Belgian cavalry, and in this army I've actually put in some Hanoverian troops. So every one might be a little bit different, but you'll still be able to do the double scale game. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take just a few close-ups of the army so you can see what comes in it. I'll go over it real quick. And then I'll show you how you use this army to set up the battlefield, or set up the Battle of Quatre Bras as I did in the videos that I produced. Alright, we'll do some close-ups now. Alright, so we'll do some close-ups of the troops that come in the British Waterloo set. Start out here, this is the Brigade of Foot Guards. And then right next to them are the Light Infantry. Half brigade is painted as regular British Light, the other half is 95th Rifles. Beside them are the Highlanders. And like I said, I don't always include Highlanders. I just did in this one because I was trying out some new techniques. These are painted, half of them are painted as the 42nd, the Black Watch, and the other half are painted as the Gordon Highlanders. Beside them, we've got a brigade of British Line, and beside that, a brigade of King's German Legion Line with the blue facings, and I used the King's German Legion regimental flag on them. Next to that, we've got the Dutch-Belgian Line Infantry, and beside them, the Dutch-Belgian Conscript Infantry, and finally, the Hanoverian Conscript Infantry. For the cavalry, we've got the Heavy Dragoons, British Light Dragoons, and in this set, I went ahead and added the Dutch-Belgian Light Dragoons as well. Sometimes I do a British Hussar unit or a 2nd Light Dragoon unit instead. Just depends on what I'm feeling at the time. Up front, we have the artillery, and we're looking at a Dutch-Belgian horse battery and a foot battery. Okay, not really focused in very well, are they? Alright, there we go. A Dutch-Belgian horse battery and a foot battery beside it. Then there's 3 batteries of British foot and a battery of British horse. I do have an engineer in the background, I just threw him in extra. And up front, finally, we have the leaders. And this is, on the far left, is a Dutch-Belgian lieutenant. Then there are 3 British lieutenants, and of course, the overall commander in the center. So that's what they look at close up, and now we're going to go ahead and take a look at creating the army that fought at Quatre Bras using the basic starter set. Alright, so what we're doing here now is we're actually going to create the order of battle of the Allied forces that fought at the Battle of Quatre Bras. And we're going to be using almost exclusively the troops that come in the Waterloo British Starter Army, although we are going to use some of the blank figures that come in the set as well to fill in some gaps. So we need to start with the 2nd Dutch-Belgian Division. Now, they actually had on the board 2 brigades of Nassau Line Infantry and a brigade of Dutch-Belgian conscripts. Now, I don't have any Nassau Line Infantry, but I do have the 2 brigades, or the Dutch-Belgian line. So I'm going to go ahead and pull out. These guys will represent the Nassau troops. And then a conscript brigade of Dutch-Belgians. That's their infantry. They also had a single skirmisher stand that represents a half brigade of light infantry, the 27th Jaegers, I believe they were. It was a strong battalion, about 900. So it would be represented by a skirmisher stand. Now, if I didn't have skirmisher stands, what I'd do is I would take out one of these, that I'm not using, the brigade movement stands, and I'd take one of the 95th rifles that aren't going to be used in the game, and I'd place him out there, and that would be the skirmisher stand for them. But I do have 2 skirmisher stands in this box set, so I'll go ahead and place one of those out there. They also had 2 batteries of artillery, a battery of horse artillery and a battery of foot artillery. Now, the horse artillery starts on the board attached to the Nassau troops, and so it's there from the beginning. The foot battery is on the road from the west, coming in from Neville's, and it's not allowed to move until the 2nd turn, so it'll take a little longer for it to get into action. Finally, they're going to have a lieutenant, and the lieutenant is going to represent either the division commander, or if you want to, you can think of him as Prince William of Orange. He was technically the commander of the 1st Corps, which this unit is a part of, and he did arrive on the battlefield fairly early. Either way, though, he's just going to act as an independent lieutenant until we get somebody of higher rank, and that's going to be Wellington when he comes on the board. So that's your onboard force to start with. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to put together the troops that arrive at 1500. Now, they come in from 2 directions. Coming from the west, we have 2 brigades of Dutch-Belgian light cavalry. Now, I have Dutch-Belgian cavalry in this group. If you didn't, you just substitute some British cavalry to represent it. Doesn't matter. You're really more concerned about the type of troop than who it is. But in this case, I have Dutch-Belgian cavalry, so I'll go ahead and set them on the board first. Remember, it's 2 separate stands. These are independent brigades. If you can, when you got cavalry like this in this scale, you really need to get a lieutenant over there attached to them. That makes them much stronger, much more durable. But as it is right now, they're going to be operating as individual brigades. And then coming down from the north road, from Brussels, we have the British 5th Division. Now that contains 2 brigades of British line. One of those brigades would be Highlanders. Like I said before, I don't always include Highlanders in my armies, but in this particular case I do have some. So we'll go ahead and put a Highlander brigade and a British Line Infantry brigade out on the board. Now, I also need a brigade of Hanoverian conscripts. In this game I do have Hanoverians, but if I didn't, I still have a brigade of Dutch-Belgian conscripts I could put out there if I wanted. But I'm going to go ahead and put out a Hanoverian conscript unit. They would also have a battery of foot artillery with them. This is British foot. And they come on the board with a lieutenant. So here's their lieutenant. So that is the British 5th Division, and like I said, we do also have the Dutch-Belgian cavalry coming on at the same time. The next unit that's going to come on at 1600 is going to be the Brunswick Corps. But at the same time, Wellington arrives from his meeting with Blücher, and he shows up at the crossroads at 1600. Now, the Brunswick Corps is something that's harder to represent. They were kind of unique. They wore all black uniforms with just a little bit of color on them. So they're an army that's actually very easy to paint if you want to try your hand at it. It'd be real easy to pull out I think it's 20 or 21, maybe less figures and guns total to do this entire corps. But we are just going to use the blank figures that come with the set to represent the Brunswick Corps. Now they had a brigade of line infantry. We're going to put these over here, and a brigade of conscript infantry. So on these guys, you'd need to do something to mark their plumes black. You could do just as simple as using a Sharpie or something to color in the top of the plume to make it black. So we've got those two brigades. The other thing you might do is you put these on the field, even if you don't want to paint them, spray paint them black so they blend into the color they really should have been a little easier. Now, they also had a skirmisher stand. Again, I have a skirmisher stand available, so I'm going to use them. They had a brigade of light cavalry, so I'm going to use the blanks for that. They also had a battery of artillery. Now, whether or not you bring in a leader or not at this point is up to you. I chose not to. Although the British have a command system that allows them to get one leader, one lieutenant for every 3 brigades on the board. This is not a British army. This is an Allied army, and there are an awful lot of Allied troops on the board, and they would normally get 1 to 4. So in this case, I've chosen not to give the Brunswick a leader. So those are the guys that come on the board at 1600, Wellington and the Brunswick Corps. The next unit we're going to need to do is going to be the 1700 arrival of the 3rd British Division. These are coming from the west, and it consists of a brigade of Hanoverian light infantry. We don't have Hanoverian light, so we're going to substitute a British light infantry brigade. It also has a brigade of Hanoverian line. For that, we're going to use the King's German Legion line. They are Hanoverians after all. And another brigade of just regular British line infantry. All right. They also have a battery of horse artillery coming on at this point, and they also come on with a lieutenant. So that's the 3rd Division. The last unit that's coming on the board is going to be the British 1st Division. That's the Guards Division. They come on at 1800 hours. Now, by the time they're there, the game is almost over. There's not a lot of daylight left, so they may not get into action. So you may not even have to represent these on the battlefield. But if you do, you've got Guard infantry in the starter set. So 2 brigades of Guard infantry. Now, I have Hanoverians in here, so I need a Hanoverian conscript unit. I go ahead and take that. There's the Hanoverian conscripts. They get a battery of foot artillery. So these guys come on here. And they get a lieutenant. So there's the lieutenant there. So that is the entire Allied army for the Battle of Quatre Bras at double scale in the LPA rules. So the scale changes. Things like ranges for shooting, sighting distances if you were using dummy counters, command ranges, things like all those things are shrunk down a little bit. And of course you have the smaller number of figures in the infantry brigades, but you still have the same number of brigades on the board, and the mechanics of the game don't change from the standard game, with the exception of a couple of very small rule changes. I mentioned that the cavalry really should operate under a lieutenant. When they do that, they get a bonus in being able to spread out casualties a little bit. But other than that, it pretty much operates the same. So this is how you can fight Quatre Bras, which was a battle which used about, I don't know, there must have been about 45,000 troops, maybe a little bit more than that, total on the board, which is more than you can represent with the starter armies, but it's easy to do when you use it at double scale. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you have any questions about how to do it, go ahead and send me an email or just put a comment in there and I'll try to respond. And like I said, I'll try to post a video showing how to do the Brunswickers if you just want to do a quick paint job on them just to get them on the battlefield for this battle. All right, see you later.